Hi, everybody out there. Um, I guess we'll start with what happened in the beginning. Um, I started out this life in a negative manner. My mother abandoned me and my little brother when we were. See, I think I was 5 years old, and my little brother was just a little kid, a little baby still. And she'd rather party and get high and hang out with the men, I guess. And so my grandmother took us in, me and my brother. To this day, my brother calls my grandmother his mother because that's only mother he's ever known. I was old enough to know that she was my grandmother at that time. So um, she's still my mother though, the way I feel for her. Um, she's in her 90s right now, and she's getting up there, and I pray for her and I worry about her. My grandfather too. Um, so, anyways, let's get back to how life started out in a negative manner with me. Um, my dad died when I was just a kid, not long after. Um, some say it was an accident, and some say it was suicide, but he got hit by a semi-truck. Um, Nobody knows if he was intoxicated. Most likely he was. I heard, from different sources that he was liked to drink. When I was a baby, I remember him taking me to the bar a couple of times and sitting me on the uh, on the bar where they serve drinks, and I remember the bartender giving me bad little bags of chips. That's about it. I kind of remember him fighting with my mom too. The anger and those voices and stuff like that. So my grandmother blames my mother for his death, and she's never really gotten over that. Still breaks her heart to talk about it. So I really don't bring it up, even though I don't know too much about my dad, just through pictures and people's saying things, this and that. So as a teenager, as I grew into my teenage years, I blamed my mom for abandoning me and my brother. Mostly me, I guess, because I was selfish. And even though my grandma gave us all kinds of love, dude, she never said one bad word to me. She never kicked me out of her house. She was always at school when I got in trouble. Um, she always defended me. Even to this day, she always defended me. Um, there's nothing I wouldn't. There's nothing I wouldn't do for that woman. But yeah, let's move on. I started drinking and doing drugs at a young age. Um, I blamed everybody else but myself. I blamed my mother, I blamed my father for not being there for me, and I hated God because I always wondered, why am I here? What's my purpose? I thought of suicide many times, but I was too scared. But I get up to my adult years, young adult, and I'm going to jail. 18th birthday, right when I turned 18, that same night, I ended up in jail. Got jumped and got thrown in jail on my birthday. Great birthday, huh? So I go to my mom's house, and she's with one of her one of her boyfriends at that time, and I hated the guy. So instead of helping me or calling the ambulance, what did they do? Because I was all beat up, my face was swollen, my hair was all torn out in places. And what did they do? They called the police. And I asked my mom, how could she do this? She didn't care. So off I go to the drunk tank, and my face was just swollen, my hair was all torn out in places, and so that was my 18th birthday, my first time in jail. So I ended up going from jail to jail, from drunk tank to drunk tank. Anything that was violent, anything that I can get involved with, I got involved because I was an idiot. I had no self-esteem. I wanted to die. I couldn't kill myself, so I was like suicide by cop kind of stuff, doing dangerous things, driving drunk, driving high, getting into fights with people, all kinds of stuff. So we speed up now. I got involved with a friend of mine. Well, actually, is a relative of mine. Um, he got me he gave me a job transporting drugs. So I was transporting 50 pounds every week. At first, it was kind of exciting, but then after a while, it became a job. Then I started to know the big people, and they started, hooking me up. Next thing you know, I was making really good money. I was taking care of my family really good. But I didn't realize I was ruining my community by selling them drugs. I was destroying people's lives, but I didn't care. As long as I had a fat wad of money in my pocket. So we move on. I really fall into the drug trade big time. Talking about crystal meth, we're talking about pounds and pounds of marijuana, so much weed you couldn't even smoke it all. I didn't think about my family. I thought I was taking care of them, but what I was doing was making things worse. So I started getting into guns and weapons, and I was buying guns and stuff like that. And I knew they were stolen, but I didn't care. So, long story short, let's get to the point. I invited this guy over. He brought his family with him. They were drinking, and him and his wife got into a domestic in my house, and he was beating on her. I told him, "You guys gotta go, man. I can't have that in my house. I have my kids in the house too, like an idiot." My wife was at work, and it was about 7 or 8 at night during the winter time. It was like a week before Christmas. So I tried to get him out of my house. So the guy that was there, his wife, and their kid, she was like 16, 15 or 16. They all jumped on my back, and I was fighting with a guy face to face, and I was chasing them to the front door. Anyways, the guy pulled out a gun, and I took it away from him. And during the struggle, I'm not going to say who, but somebody got shot. The FBI, the state police, the sheriff, everybody showed up that night. Before they came, it takes like an hour to get to my house. You could hear them coming, the sirens. So I was throwing bricks of weed up on top of the house. About, like I said, I had like 50 or 60 pounds, so they all came in bricks like that. So I'm throwing them on top of the house, and before they showed up, and the FBI came, took pictures of my house, took pictures of me, took pictures of them, and then they just left. And for a whole year, I was wondering what was going on. And then a year to the date, a year went around, came back to almost a week to the same time that it happened. FBI knocked on my door one day, and I was sitting there smoking a joint. I was getting ready to go to town to go Christmas shopping, and knock on the door. "Mr. Smith, we have a federal warrant for you." And they came with their machine guns and their bulletproof vests, and I wasn't shocked. So in front of my family, they put their handcuffs on me like that, like this. Put it around my waist, chain around my waist, and put some chains around my feet. Kissed my family goodbye, and my kids were crying, and I was telling myself, "Man, this is it. This is it, man." So I spent about 2 weeks in Flagstaff doing at the U.S. Marshals. I had to go to court, and that's when they told me that all the charges that I was charged with, and I was facing 35 years in prison in federal penitentiary somewhere. And my wife was there, and so was my uncle. And one of the questions that she asked me in court is if I had an alcohol or a drug problem, and I still did. I still acted like I didn't have a problem. I still in denial. I said, "No, Your Honor, I don't have any issues." He goes, "Well, that's not what your wife told us. I guess they interviewed. I didn't know they interviewed your family too at the same time." You know, it's just your wife said that you're an alcoholic. This is what's I can put it. So she goes, "You're gonna spend a month in the federal holding pen in Florence, Arizona," which I find out later is hell. After a month there, they told me that I'll be going to Crossroads, Arcadia, which is in Phoenix, Arizona. Some kind of rehab center. I've never been to rehab in my life, so I really wasn't crazy about going, but then this is what saved my life. We'll get to that point. So I spent a month in hell in Florence. I don't even want to go there because I'm still traumatized by the way the feds treat you in a holding cells. It's one of the worst experiences I've ever experienced. So, wind forward a month later, they take me to the federal probation office, and I meet my pretrial officer, which I won't say his name, but I didn't like him in the beginning because he was hard. He was hard. Stickler for the rules. So I went to rehab, and they dropped me. They picked me up. Actually, the rehab people picked me up at the marshal's office in downtown Phoenix, and they told me that Mr. Smith, they're going to be here for 120 days. I was, fuck, that's a long time. So my first thought was I'm going to get on a Greyhound and hide from the feds and drive around America, see America. And when I told my wife I was out and I was in rehab, I called her and she said, I told her my plan. She goes, "No, I'm not going with you. And I'm not taking the kids through all that shit either. You go, you got to go on your own." So that's what made me stay, because I didn't want to leave my family behind. And there I go, being selfish, thinking about my feelings and myself again. So I was there about a week, and I was thinking, I hate this place. I don't want to be here. I'm from the res, man. I just see my own people, my own native people. There's white people, there's black people, there's, Arab people. It's all a mix of races and stuff, and I'm not used to it. And inside of a big old greedy city too. But I was walking by this room one day, and there was a native guy standing in there. And us Navajos, we can tell, we can smell each other out, if you want to put it that way. And I seen this guy teaching in there, and his name is Carl. That's all. I'll put his name out there. But he was starting up a Wellbriety class, and I didn't know what Wellbriety meant, but I sat in there because there was him, and there was 3 other natives sitting in there. So I felt comfortable. Like I said, I felt comfortable with my own people. So I sat in there just to be with them, see some other familiar brown faces. So he's talking about how us as Native Americans have issues. He had this thing where he was talking about. Where's my pen at? Anyways, he was talking about a circle of life. Everything in this world runs in a circle, right? So he started out as a baby right here. He started out as a teenager, as an adult, and as an elder. So between a baby and a teenager, I had issues. I mean, I couldn't speak or anything, but I had the emotion. My mother didn't raise me, and my father wasn't there for me, so I had some kind of regression or resent of some sort, feelings. So I get down to a teenager, and I start drinking and doing drugs right here in this area. So when I started doing drinking and started doing drugs, I started getting in trouble with the law. Warrants, probation, police, you name it. I was in trouble for it. So as I grew as an adult, I still had the mentality of a teenager, even though I was a grown man. 40 years old, I was still a grown man, but I was acting like a child. And I was always telling myself, why am I in jail again? Or why am I in a drunk tank again? I always use that thing, God, if you get me out of this, I'll never do it again. And sure enough, I'm back in the same place again. It was a cycle, and I didn't understand why I kept doing that. So, like I said, he was teaching that class, and I found out that my mentality was still a teenager, and I was still doing stupid stuff. I didn't learn how to be a warrior, as we call it, walking on the red road, which is being humble and being honorable and being respectful to ourselves and to others. So I had to go back in time and figure out what my issues were. And that's when I come back to my mother and my father. I blamed them for everything. I blamed them for taking that drink or smoking that thing. But in reality, it was me. I did all that. Boo-hoo, boo-hoo, baby me. That's what happened. I blamed everybody else, but it was me. I actually found out it was me. So I started doing my 12 steps in AA. Number one, my life became unmanageable because of drugs and alcohol, and I admitted that to myself. And I knew that was an issue for me. It was probably one of the hardest things I had to do, is to admit that I was a drunk and a fiend, drunk fiend. But the Wellbriety program is what saved my life. I learned how to pray. I learned how to go to sweat lodge. I learned how to treat people. I learned how to treat myself. I learned how to treat my family in a good way. And so now we go up to the feds. A year goes by and I'm out of rehab. I'm out in the world working. I worked at Burger King. That's the only people that would hire me. So I'm working at Burger King for a whole year, scrubbing toilet bowls and cleaning up sinks and putting up with people's shit. And I was one of those people that used to give those fast food workers a hard time. And here I was sitting there with a Burger King shirt on saying, how can I help you? You can have it your way. But I learned the manager, his name's Jose. He's still a good friend of mine to this day. He gave me the chance to work a decent day. And I started to learn that no matter, it doesn't matter where you work at. It doesn't matter how much money you make. It's at the end of the day when you lay your head down, you know that you made an honest day's work and an honest day's pay. And that goes a long ways. So I'm still sober at the time. So I'm about a year and some sober. And my family gets to move in with me, and my PO says it's okay. He approves the house and everything that I'm staying in. It was a shitty little apartment, but it was clean. No roaches or nothing. So I was really grateful, and it was because I was doing the right things. I was going to work every morning. I didn't have a car, mind you. I was taking a bus every day. And if you take a bus in Phoenix, it's crazy. It takes forever to get where you're going. And but I worked hard. I kept the faith. I prayed to the Creator. I stayed sober. I learned how to help others. I learned not to judge people. And I learned to be humble. And I constantly go to sweat lodge. And our spiritual advisors, Rachel and Leroy, really helped me through this. And mind you, I'm still going to court. So I get a plea bargain from the prosecutor's office. My lawyer calls me one day and says, yeah, they want to give you 5 years. And 5 years from 35, I was thinking, I'll take it, man. But then he goes, no, they don't have a case. Let's just move on with it. Let's just, say reject it. And they were trying to tell me, well, we need him to sign this by this afternoon, or else it's going to be no good. So he goes, whatever then. So I was scared, but I had faith that the Creator was going to help me get out of this situation. So about 6 more months go by, and a pretrial gets a call again to my lawyer. My lawyer calls me up and he goes, I got good news and I got bad news. And I said, oh shit. And he goes, well, tell me the bad news. He goes, well, they want to give you probation, but it's going to be about 3 years. And then he goes, the good news is they drop it if you complete that without any drug problems, dirty ways, or contact with the police, like going to jail or something, or just breaking your probation, and you have to keep a job. If you keep those up, we're gonna go to court every 6 months, and they could drop it at any time. But you still have a span of 3 years if they want to. So I was happy with it. At least I wasn't gonna go to prison. So I just started working, and I did everything you could think of, man. because people don't want to hire somebody that's going through federal pretrial. Hold on, this thing got dark. So, before my phone goes out, I'll finish up. I do all jobs, man. Working in a dump. I did everything I could, but I kept the faith, man. I knew the Creator He had me, my back. I still went to the sweat lodge, and I still went back to Crossroads where I did my rehab for 120 days, and I still go back and I help them even to this day. So I'm 3 years, 6 months sober today, and I'm still doing the right thing. And now I'm working as a behavioral health tech, and I'm also a peer support specialist. The Creator will lead the path for you if you want to follow that right road. We call it the red road. And I still help out 24/7. I'm helping out people here at where I work at, and here at the other Crossroads. And so this past October, I'm supposed to go to court at the end of October, but they called me the first week of October. My lawyer actually calls me and tells me that no, actually it was my PO that called me. And she goes, Mr. Smith, I have good news for you. And I said, what's that? And she goes, well, the prosecutor and the United States District has dropped the charges against you. You're free. You don't have to go to probation anymore. You don't have to check in anymore. No more drug tests or anything. You're free. Congratulations. There's one of the happiest days of my life. And I knew it was because of the Creator, and it was my good heart that I was meant to be here to help out others. And my grandma told me that as a kid, that God put you here to help others. And I never believed it, but it took for me to almost lose my freedom and maybe my life if I would continue drinking. And so I'm here to tell you that in a positive manner, in a good way, to all my relations, that things are possible for us out there, especially my brothers and sisters out there on the reservation still suffering from these issues. There is a way out. So with that, take my story and be positive, brothers and sisters, and love each other. Oh.